Fizz code challenge. One of the popular programming katas is called Fizz. It's a very popular programming interview question for computer programmers. Actually, it is said that the Fizz coding challenge can filter many prospective candidates from job interviews. So, as such, we are going to implement this program and hopefully get a good understanding of it in case you're new to programming. And there are many ways actually of implementing this, but today we shall do a mixture of OOP, that is object-oriented programming. We shall use a for loop and basically if statements. So let's get started. Hey, my name is Ronnie Atoire, and I'm also known as Afroboytex. Welcome back to my YouTube beginner series. Today we shall be implementing a Fizz challenge. So basically, before we get started, let's get the concept behind Fizz. They usually ask for in interviews for a programmer to write a program that prints numbers, let's say from a certain range. For example, here we're saying 1 to 100, and for that number, if it is divisible by 3 or it's a multiple of 3, we're going to print Fizz instead of that number. If it is a multiple of 5, we're going to print bars, and if it is a multiple of both 3 and 5, we shall be printing Fizz bars, basically joining these two. So instead of that number. So before we get started, I'd like to start as usual with a pseudocode. I like doing pseudocode because it helps me give me an overview, and basically it will also help you embrace that in coding. When you're coding, it's good to comment, and it's good also to understand what you do first before you start coding. So let's get started. So first, since we've said you're going to use object-oriented programming, let's create a class. We're going to call that class. I don't want autocomplete. So what I'm going to do is we're going to create a class, and that class will hold everything that you're going to do. Create Fizz class. Then under the Fizz class, we shall create a function. Then under the function, we shall have a for loop and the container and the return result. So basically here we shall need a result container. This is basically how we shall store our result. Then we shall use a for loop to iterate over through a certain range. Then under a for loop, we shall have if statements for conditions. Then under after if statements, we shall have a return call of the function. Then we shall instantiate a new object from Fizz. Then from there, we shall actually call the object that we have created with the print function. So let's get started from up. We create a class. We're going to call this class Fizz. We can put this or we can remove this. Let's say this. Create a class called Fizz. Then under Fizz, we shall create a function known as Fizz, which takes in a parameter, that's a certain number that we shall be using. Then here we shall use docstrings. Docstrings basically it's telling us what exactly this function is doing. It takes in a parameter, which is an integer. Then sorry about that, it's autocomplete. Then it returns a list. So having known that in mind, actually this here is up here. So we create a container, we call it result. It's an empty container currently. We shall append results to it. Then we start using a for loop. copy this is here, result container. Then I shall use a for loop. So let's say let's just call iterator variable I. For I, you can call I anything. For I in range from 1 n, that's basically the number that will be passed here, the integer, but you would want to print up to that particular number. If you want, let's say if you want first 100 for this particular Fizz challenge, so we shall have to add a 1 because of upper bound rule, whereby upper bound is not considered upper bound integer. So basically this will, if it is 1 to 101, it will be printing from 1 up to 100. That's the reason why we add a 1. So we head over to our if statements. This is basically where the logic of the code is. So we are saying if the number is divisible or a multiple of 3, we are going to call it a Fizz. If it is multiple of 5, we're going to call it a Buzz. And if it's a multiple of both numbers, we shall call it Fizz Buzz. So let's start by implementing a 3. If we say if I, that is if any number there in that range, here we will think through what we're going to use. Basically, we're going to use a modulus operator because any number divisible by 3 doesn't give us a balance, it gives us a 0. So basically, if you say if the remainder operator, which is a modular operator in Python, if that number is modulus a number, gives us a 0 as a remainder, basically it's completely divisible. So if I divisible by 3 is equal to 0, then we shall append the result. Shall append the result as Fizz. Then else if, that is elif, if I modulus 5 equals to 0, we shall append the result as Buzz. Then elif or else if in Python or in other languages, if I modular 3 gives us, actually we can break down this, we can say if it is since 3 and 5 they are all multiples of 5, they're all divisible into 15, so we shall look, the common divisor here is 15, 3 times 5 basically. So if any number that 3 can go in any number that is a multiple of 15, 3 and 5 can go in 45, 3 and 5 can go in 60, 3 and 5 can go in 90, 3 and 5 can go in 75, multiples of 15. So we see how 15 is the common thing here, so we can just kind of break down the code. Instead of doing this, if I modular 3 equals to 0 and I modular 5 equals to 0, we shall say result dot append Fizz Buzz. So if in case the number is not divisible by all those, we shall just append the result. We shall just append the result, which is I. Then in the end, we shall just return our function. Sorry, we shall return our result. So basically that's it. This return call can come up here. So we shall instantiate a new object, basically creating an instance of this object. Let's call it new. from our class. This is how you initiate, make an instance of an object. So we shall call the function under that class, which is basically FizzBuzz. It takes a parameter, let's say 100. But before we do this, let me just clarify something here small. As you can see here, the order of the condition statements matter. Although I'll first print out the result, we shall see why I'm saying this. Because here what you're doing basically is you're doing this and this 3 and 5, and you're also calling this and this 3 and 5 at the end, okay, as the third condition. So basically what happens here is it goes through. If this condition is met, this is appended. If this condition is not met, it goes to the next one. If this is met, it goes to this one. It also appends the result. But this third condition has the two conditions. The previous conditions are the same thing. So the order here will matter. Why I'm saying this, let's first run this then we shall see what I'm talking about. Let's first save this. So let's run. Basically, you see into where the program is. Our program is called FizzBuzz. Sorry. Py FizzBuzz.py. Oh, yeah. So basically here, the reason why it's giving me that, every time you create a function, it's by convention, you put a self keyword here to avoid such an error, because now it's seeing it as a function needs 2 parameters, because here we put only 1. That's why it's bringing that error. So if you go back to, okay, let's actually first save it. So if you run this again, it prints, but understand that doesn't exactly print what we want. Here it prints 5. Okay, here it prints buzz, what we want, but if we go to 15, it prints fizz instead of FizzBuzz. To solve this issue, we just come here and change the order of the statements here. Just cut out this, let it be the first. So it's an if. So you save again. Actually, I can break this down. If I is modular 15, gives us a 0. So we save. We run our program again. So as you see here, 14, 15, it gives us a FizzBuzz. Yeah, we have our thing correct now. So we expect a 75 to be a FizzBuzz, we expect a 90 to be a FizzBuzz. That's it. Stay blessed. Thank you so much. Subscribe to my channel.